So how are we?
I'm good, you know, girl. How are you?
I'm good. Shall we get into our little episode?
Okay, yeah, let's do it. This is Truly.
And this is Shells, in case you don't know.
And we are When the Kids Go to Bed. Shh. And today and other days, we are going to be unpacking the single parent narrative.
Mainly the single mum narrative.
Yes, that's true.
Mainly because we have both been single mums.
Exactly. Speaking from experience.
And also 90% of the population in the UK are single. Out of all the single parents.
Yeah, so there are 2.8 million single parent families in the UK, because I Googled it. And
well done.
90% of those are single mums. Yeah. So, I mean, we can say single parents to try and, cover everyone, but let's be real. We're not talking about the 10%. So we are talking about single mums. But because
we can't speak for men as well.
That's true.
We just can't. Their experience of being a single parent is undoubtedly going to be different from like a single mother's experience.
Yeah.
Like when we had the
self-made.
Yeah.
Okay. And the single parent narrative is a very broad topic. Okay. There's so many angles, I think, for us to come at it from. So this is likely to be a little mini series. Because I think we could do quite a few episodes on it.
Well, let's just say, guys, when we was trying to think about how we're going to unpick it and what angle we're going to go from, let's just say we digressed a million times.
Yeah, there was a lot
because
to talk about.
We know whenever we do our shows, we want to talk about one specific topic, and we just got into so many that we didn't even know where we was going. So yeah, let's just make it a little bit of a continuation.
Yeah, because we don't want to rush it and we don't want to leave out anything, obviously, that we want to talk about. Okay, where are we going to start?
Well, let's start with, would you say the single parent narrative is mostly positive or negative?
Oh, I would say it's negative. Yeah, I would say society sees single parents in a negative light. For a number of reasons. They blame a lot of things on single mums and then the children of those families and stuff like that. So yeah, it is negative. But I think that's something we can talk about later.
Yeah, we'll get on to that. But
talk about
I
that
think
later.
this is why we're doing it. Because yes, society views single motherhood as quite negative, but let's look at the whys, let's look at the hows, and let's look at it in more detail because we can all read statistics, but really and truly, let's get to the nitty gritty of why things happen.
Plus, once you become a single parent, like there's nothing you can do about it. There's people that say that some women choose to be single parents and all that kind of stuff, but I just don't think that's true. It's definitely not how I became a single parent. But once you are one, that's just the way the cookies crumbled. Yeah. That's just the card you've been dealt, and there's nothing you can do. And therefore, you have to manage the situation as best you can. So let's just unpack it and see.
All right. So let's the first part of, let's start from when you become a single parent. Yeah. When you become a single parent, the majority of the time, if you've been in a relationship with someone, the relationship has failed. On some level, it's ended. Yeah. So you're going to be initially dealing with that. You're going to be dealing with the breakup and the heartache that comes with a relationship ending. Coupled with that, you're also now dealing with the psychological side and the social pressures of, oh, now I'm a single mum. So there's that pressure. Then you've also got this child or children to look after and make the best people and humans that they can become, whilst dealing with a broken heart, probably lowered resources, finances, support, and all of that. Yeah? So it's very easy to fall into a state of victimhood.
Yeah, I agree. Because I think people underestimate the bit that you said in the beginning about dealing with a broken heart. I think people underestimate the impact that can have on somebody. And, even people that don't have children that are in relationships and they break up can take that quite, badly. And it can take time. Like, doesn't it say, like, literally research says that it can take a certain amount of time to heal from a broken relationship. And that's even without having any kids. So I think that bit is underestimated in the sense that a lot of the times people just think that mums should just get on with it, you know, and they throw out too quickly for the sake of the kids.
Get over how you feel, forget how you're impacted, and just focus on your children, because that's your job.
But funny how when you were younger, so when you were like a teenager and even in like your early 20s and stuff like that, when you had a breakup, people around you were quite supportive and sensitive. Like your mom or your friends, everyone allowed you to have healing time. You know, you're allowed to be upset about it. Yeah, like I said, you're allowed to be heartbroken. I mean, there's people that call in sick to work. When they've been dumped, okay, when they're dealing with breakup, okay, and it seems quite acceptable. Like, you know, everyone accepts
no
it.
one around you's going to say, well, don't take that day off work.
No, your friends are like, come over, you're heartbroken. Like, everyone accepts it, especially like if it's men. Like, I know from having brothers, if they were heartbroken, I would be there ready to be like, it's okay,
don't worry, bro,
because I know that shit hit you hard. You know what I mean? Like, that's hit you hard. Like, you really affected. Like, so how come when a woman now goes through it, and maybe it's even bigger to her now because she had children with this person, so she's grieving a lot for an ended relationship.
Well, let's say, look, so on average, psychological studies that have been done, a common theme for getting over a heartbreak or a breakup is about 11 to 12 weeks. So let's say 3 months, After about 3 months, if you were to measure how you felt generally, it's about after 3 months, you're going to start to feel better. Okay. Which means you can, you know, start to move on or start to have a more positive outlook on your, you know, your everyday life. A divorce, the stats are 1.5 years.
That's how long it takes.
Yeah. So there aren't specific, I haven't found any studies that say single parenthood, but I would, if we're going to compare a mother who has just become a mother or recently is a mother and is now going through a breakup with the dad, I would liken that heartbreak more to a divorce than just a general man and woman breakup.
And even if you knocked a couple months off, even if you say, okay, it's not as much as a divorce, it's still going to be up at the even
if the relationship was a friends with benefits type of situation, because the woman is biologically linked via the child to that man now. I would, and also the data does say that depending on the severity of the relationships, like how deep it was, how satisfied were you in the relationship? Would you
living together and now you're not living together?
Was the breakup a surprise to you? Were you generally happy in the relationship? When all of those things are taken into account.
Did he cheat on you?
Right, it's deeper. So betrayal is one of them.
Yeah,
betrayal is definitely one of them.
Of course it is.
So depending on the severity and deepness of the relationship is going to obviously impact you a lot harder. Now, how do you measure someone's heartbreak over another? You can't. It's like, how is cancer going to affect one person to another? We're going to have differences. However, the themes are, the deeper it was, the harder the breakup. It just makes, you know, logical sense. Yeah. So, all right, we're not necessarily looking at divorce, but let's look at a woman has been in a relationship on some level. Let's say a normal relationship didn't work out. Because that was our situation. So let's just speak from our own experience. We were in relationships. They didn't work out. Now we've got children to co-parent and manage an existing relationship with someone. Because the data also says when you're having a breakup, one of the ways to get rid of those feelings and to move on healthily is to not contact that person.
I was going to say, it's to cut all ties.
How can you do that when you have a child or children
and
to now manage?
And really as well, the man, he don't really want to give you any time either to deal and process because he wants to see his child. Rightly so. He doesn't want a break from that. So therefore, but like you said, that's what you would, if you were going to give advice to your younger friend or your, you know what I mean, your younger daughter, you would say, when you go for a breakup, when it's finished, cut all ties, don't talk to the person, you can't be friends, blah, 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 blah. But so we don't get to do that in co-parents. So I think it's understandable that women do feel or fall into that kind of victim mentality because they are feeling all the emotions of a breakup. They're feeling hurt.
Yeah.
And I'm not being rude, but I mean, I've said it before. Usually I feel like it's the man's fault when the relationship ends. I'm so sorry. Like, I'm so sorry. Do you know? And do you know why I say that, yeah? Do you know why I say that, yeah, as well? It's because even when a man falls out of love for a woman with a woman for no reason, yeah, like no reason.
Well, there's no reason.
No, but what I'm saying is like
if he just falls out of love, yeah.
Women still can't accept that, and women like you're still the bad guy. Like everyone knows, like it's like a man's not even allowed to just change his mind or outgrow a woman. As a woman, we still blame you. Like, you broken this up and all that kind of stuff.
If you look at how females relate in a relationship, we nurture our relationships, and if you look at like I've seen it so many times with all the kids that we've worked with. Yeah, you look at boys that fight and argue. 10, 20 minutes later or the next day, they hash it out. Yeah, whatever, bruv, whatever, and they're cool. Girls, even from year 7, they will have a relationship with the girls, a group of girls. Some dramas happen. Someone said something or someone's done something. In year 11, they're still talking about what happened in year 7.
Yeah.
They harbour shit.
Yeah.
And that's how we are biologically wired, because we have to attach ourselves. We have to bond with the child. We have to breastfeed. So if you think about it biologically, it makes sense that we hold on to things a little bit longer than, not necessarily than a man, but the way that we might present how we're feeling.
Because can you imagine if we actually spoke to women who they were the ones that ended the relationship? I feel like it would be very different, because they may not necessarily have that heartbreak feeling, because maybe they wanted to get away, maybe they were well over it, maybe, do you see what I mean? So maybe they wouldn't need that
it doesn't necessarily mean that it would be easier, but probably emotionally speaking, she left.
I was gonna say, she already had the processing time. It
doesn't mean that the breakup is easy on any level. It just might mean that she might be able to move on a little bit quicker, healthier. Yeah. So there will be less of the, unhealthy behaviors, like the speaking in the background when you're on the phone, and you don't need to do all of that nonsense.
So the thing is, if we know then that this happens, like we know that women are going to go through tough times through breakups, and it's going to be difficult, and if we all know that, how do we get around dealing with that? Like when it happens, how do we, for all the mums that that it might happen to in the future, how are they supposed to deal with that in a good way? Like, I don't know.
There's a few things that you can do, but me personally, how I dealt with it, which was very difficult, and some parts were healthy and some parts weren't. But when I look back at what actually worked for me, it was immersing myself in becoming the best mum that I could be with the kids. Because when I stopped focusing on what he was doing or not doing, or showing up or not showing up, I got so wrapped up in that because of my emotional attachment that was still there. I was still angry about things. I was still hurt about, because a heartbreak, it's like grieving. It's like a loss. And the researchers, they liken that to when an addict doesn't have their fix. So there is that obsession kind of element to the wanting to check in and wanting to have out all your feelings.
Yes,
but the other person ain't on that. They're not trying to hear that. They just want to deal with the kids. And you can see how that can be really hurtful, to feel so overlooked and unheard and misunderstood.
Imagine you
and
still
just
got
rejected.
Questions. Imagine you still want, like, he ain't answered your questions.
Yeah.
And things like that. Like, you want to know why he left.
Yeah.
Or why he cheated.
Yeah.
Or what, do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
But he don't want to talk about that because he thinks he already had that conversation with you. He's like, we already talked about this. I already said what I've got to say. I'm over it. I want to see the kids.
It's like you have to, I said it on another episode with someone else, that you just have to get to the point of acceptance. Because regardless of what stage of the grieving you're at, you still have to be a mum. You still have to go to work. You still have to make sure the roof is over your head. And you still have to do all of these practical day-to-day things. But your heart is breaking. Whilst your mind and your heart are never going to always agree, but you have to, in your mind, accept, I am a single mum. and really sit with that. Like, because it took me a long time to go, you're a single mum. Like, you're a single mum. Like, and I remember even when the kids said to me, Mum, one day I was just like, wait, I'm the mum. Like, so even becoming a new mum can be very like overwhelming with the day to day. I got to do this, I got to breastfeed. Oh, my boob's leaking. I'm bleeding. I'm this. I'm that. Like, it's a lot with your body and everything else. But then when you're now in a breakup, you've got all of that plus the break. Like, you have to sit down and really accept I'm a single mum.
I think that's really important when you said acceptance, because you know as well that there are times when
you're still ringing.
Well, yeah, you don't know if it's the end.
You're still
like,
hoping.
Let's not act like the first time you argue with someone and you break up, that it's finished. So you may have already done this dance a couple of times when you thought you was a single parent. Do you know what I mean? So you thought you was a single parent, and you've already said the whole, I fucking do this on my own. Yeah. I will do this on my own. I can do this on my own. I don't need you. We're breaking up. Then he could even go for like a couple of days, a week. And you're like, yeah, fuck it, I'm a single parent. But then you lot make up. So then he's back. So acceptance is really important, because at one point it does become
it's real.
The final.
Oh, he actually means it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's gone that far.
Yeah. It's
oh shit.
And that probably takes literally actually time for the man not being in the house. Yeah. And the contact. It's not just going to be when he left. It's actually going to be like a month down the line, 2 months down the line, that it's like,
babe, it could be a whole year and a half down the line.
It can only be from time of it being, wow, even down to, like, ain't slept together.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, because we're broken up, and this
is what I was going to get into. Yeah. Because after acceptance becomes, I have to set boundaries now.
Yeah.
Because in order for you to not be emotionally manipulated by that man, or you to not emotionally manipulate him, because let's not act like women don't do that as well.
Like, come on, it works.
Don't use the kids as a pawn and all of that stuff.
To get what you want, because what you really want is him. Like, let's not act like it's only men that do that.
And also, when you don't get him, and you know that you can't get him, you can't use it now just to offload. Because, all right, you might have accepted, all right, he ain't going to come back. I might not ever sleep with him again, but let me just get him anyway.
Yeah.
Just because he needs to feel how I feel.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No. So after the acceptance becomes boundaries. Like, babe, I'm not going to sleep with you anymore. I can't even call you babe anymore.
Yeah.
So everything has to change within you. Like, and it has to start within.
I was going to say, it has to be, it's all by yourself. That's the thing.
Like, and that's the hardest and scariest and most isolating part of it all.
But on the positive side, that means that you can control all of that, because as you said before, you have to let go of what he's doing. So it could give you a bit of hope, knowing that everything that happens from now on is because of you. So when you heal from this breakup, that's because of you. When you accept it, that's down to you. The boundaries you put in, it's down to you. So really, this can work, let's say in theory, regardless of who your baby father is. Yeah. Okay? So whether he's a prick, or
he's a nice guy,
decent human being, it really shouldn't come down to anything that he's doing or not doing, because it really needs to be down to you going through these stages.
This is the shift. So especially if you've been in a long-term relationship, 5 years plus, and you're used to, oh, he makes me a coffee in the morning, and oh, he takes them out the bath while I'm doing this, and you do, on a practical level, everything becomes just you, and that is very difficult, especially if your love language is acts of service, for example.
Some women are scared, and rightly so. Like, that's understandable. Some women are scared to think, I physically can't do it on my own. And I'm talking, I don't mean just like, looking after it. I mean, if you were sharing the school runs or sharing the nursery pickups, or do you know what I mean? Or you got a job and while you was at work, he picks. Yeah. That is a serious thing of, how can I do this on my own?
Well, let's not act like this is one of the main reasons why a lot of women stay in unhealthy relationships, because the fear of doing XYZ alone is very bloody scary, because if the other person is sharing the load with you, and then all of a sudden all of that's gonna go on your shoulders alone, like that's a lot. And it is a lot. like physically,
financially,
mentally,
like,
financially.
What if you live in a house?
Everything.
What if you live in a home together? You can't afford like there's actual things, serious things. It's not just about saying I can't do all the baths and the cooking. We're talking about some serious
What
things.
If you can't pay your bills
what if you can't pay the rent? What if you're not sharing the rent? Because everyone knows cost of living. You need 2 people these days. So what if it can't be done?
What if you can't move back into your mum's house?
Yes.
What if you don't have family support? What if you're in another country?
Yeah.
And you don't even have friends
do you know
like
what?
that?
From everything that you're saying, it makes it quite easy to understand why women can easily feel like they are a victim. Like look at all of it. Why? What if I can't do this? How am I going to do that? Well, of course, poor me.
Woe is me.
Poor me, because on the other side, you know, when men have their own separate issues, like when they have a breakup, they got their own things that they have to deal with, because maybe they're the ones that have to move out of family home. Now they don't know where they're going to live. They maybe they have to move back in with their mum. So they got their own things. But at the moment, we're single mums, we're women. We're talking about our women thing. But it is easy to feel like, poor me. I've got all this shit to deal with, and you definitely don't care about what he's got to deal with. You actually probably think that he just has it easier.
Well, if you think about it, biologically now you're in survival mode.
Yeah.
Because you have to shift every pattern that you've known. You have to change all your daily activities and the methods that you choose to do them in now. Financially, you might be struggling. Like, it is hard. Like, you're shifting everything, and you're like, human beings, we don't like change. It makes us uncomfortable. And coming out of your comfort zone, that's a whole nother episode. Yeah? So it is hard, and it is easy to sit and wallow. Now, I'm not saying do not give yourself time to wallow. Sit yourself down in the dark room when the kids are gone to bed, and sit there with your ice cream or your chocolate or whatever it is, and sit and cry. Sit and cry. Cuss him in your head. Do what you need to do. Let it out. Yeah? But you have to shift, and you have to switch on to what's in front of you. Because if you wallow for too long, who's losing out?
Yeah. And the words that you're saying as well, like later on, so like how you describe yourself, you know, like when you do say, so like you might have broken up with this man 2 years ago, 2 years ago, and you may be well over him, like well over him, but yet when you talk about being a single parent, you still sound quite negative, which people have accused me of, innit? People have accused me of that all the time.
Remember that episode in the rain?
Right, and they do confuse it with, the first thing they go to is that I must still want the person.
Yeah.
And I was very clear on, I don't. It's been years. I definitely don't.
Yeah.
But I do understand now that I was sounding very negative.
Yeah.
And I think it's coming from what you're saying, because I'm feeling hard done by.
Yeah.
Like, hard done by. Even though it was 2 years ago or 5 years ago, you're still thinking all the shit that I went through. So the heartbreak, the healing, the on my own, shift into I'm lioness, getting all that shit. Even though it's been 3 years, if you mention it to me, it comes right back up, and I'm like, yes, I am a single parent. And even if you, especially if you experience something, so I might have been a single parent, like I've been a single parent now for like 5 years, but on a hard day, when I'm tired,
there's a resentment.
Comes back to the forefront. Pour me one again. Up with the sleepless nights because this child's sick. She's vomited. And you're right back where you was in your victim.
Really, why is that? Because in the days where you have to do school run, pick up, drop off, uni, work, blah, 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 you have to suppress so much of your healing process because, one, you're restricted with time. You can't just pick up and go and have a spontaneous brunch with your brethren. You now have to work, drop off, pick off, sit down, play, homework, ABC, blah, blah, blah. You don't have time.
And you can't function.
Physical time.
How can you function?
Crying.
If you're crying.
While your child,
if
Mummy, what's wrong?
Yeah, you can't.
Oh, your dad's pissing me off. I still got to... You can't sit there and talk to your children about it.
So you can't find your child's other shoe, big meltdown, crying that you're like the kid having a meltdown at the front door all of a sudden.
But that's what you want to do.
Of course.
But because you've suppressed it, it delays the natural healing process or the grieving process. And then, like you said, Here comes a bad day now where everything's on top. You haven't had much sleep. You're worrying about a bill you got to pay. A random HMRC have called you about some nonsense back payment. And then, like, a bad day comes and it just comes out. And it's about him. Yeah. Is it about him? Or is it about your healing?
Yeah.
And this is why, the reason this is so important to unpick is because what we are in danger of doing, and I've witnessed it with acquaintances and friends over the years, is sitting down and you're chatting, the man, the dad, the breakup, the ins and outs of the relationship, and the kids are overhearing. Like, we've all been guilty of it. We've all done it. I've done it definitely unintentionally, but I've literally seen mothers sit down, well, your dad is.
I know, yeah.
And I'm like,
that's too far, man.
You know,
that's
you're like, okay, Jimmy, go and play with Emma over there. I don't know who's called Jimmy and Emma, but that's what came to my mind. And they're playing over there now because I can't sit down.
Yeah.
While you're bad and a child is running around our feet. I can't do that.
But like you said, even if the kids are in the house, you send them upstairs to a whole nother room.
But do you remember standing and you could hear your parents talking? And you're like,
and especially if it got interesting, I'm going to listen even more. Like, if I'm playing and I catch a whiff and I'm like, what'd you say about, I'm like, what'd you say about my dad? What'd you say about my dad? What'd you say about my dad, woman? What'd she say?
Wait, so Daddy was with Auntie Shirley? And really? What? Wait, what?
Yeah. So obviously that's kind of where it leads into that. If that's how you're feeling, and that's what you say to your friends,
use healthy outlets.
The energy is definitely going to outpour onto
other areas of your life. Yeah.
That you feel this way about their dads. Like, it is. It's you're not going to be able to avoid it.
And also as well, it's more, yes, we don't want to impact the children negatively, but more so for yourself, because you don't have the other person to emotionally lean on in the home. Okay? That person might be, you know, down the line might be able to support you emotionally, because I've definitely had emotional support from the older two's dad, and that's been really helpful. Like, it's actually it's like made my day, made my week a little bit easier to deal with. But until you get to that point, you still have to show up in the best way possible. And in order to do that, you need to be content. You need to be at peace with who you are, who you're becoming and all that. So it's more about yourself, because when you're not happy, when you're depressed, when you're feeling it, when you're numb and just going through life on autopilot, your children are impacted. But also, how do you get out of that? If you get used to staying in that way, how do you get out of that?
I think as well, obviously, because we've had the journey and we know what it's like to be well on the other side, where you are out of that, you don't have those feelings no more, and everything is much more positive. I think women in that situation need to kind of understand that it will get better, because I think if you'd asked me like 3 years ago, I would have said that my relationship with my co-parent is always going to be negative, because that's where we were, that's where we were at, and I couldn't see things getting better because this is how I felt about him, and I damn well knew that he didn't like me. So I would have thought at that time that this is how it's always going to be. I think I probably thought the light at the end of the tunnel was when my daughter turned 18. Like, I think I was thinking when she's 18, or when she's 15, and
I don't have to talk to him.
He doesn't have to communicate. But that is what I would have thought at the time. So I would have just thought that this is a really dark place, and I'm going to be dealing with this constant arguments, negativity, him pissing me off for a very long time. So I think women need to know, for women that are in this stage now and in the early stage, that no, and the saying is true. Time is a healer. Time is a healer.
Time's a healer.
Yeah, and it will get better, because when you have healed and when he has healed, because there's healing for men to do as well, and men also change when they have healed, okay? Men also will treat you in a certain way when they too are dealing with heartbreak, or just, or managing any emotions, stuff like that. When you are both out of that place, it
can be beautiful.
I was going to say, I can only explain to people that have not reached there yet, that it is a new level. Okay, like imagine just how it is. You're like
life changing.
Yeah, you know when you actually say, when you fall out with a friend and you're like, I don't even care about them no more, but you're lying. You know when you do something, you're like, I don't care. Like, and you're lying because you do care. Yeah. But you know when you actually don't care.
Yeah, you don't need to say that.
It's a whole nother.
You don't even have to announce nothing.
No, and it's just, a whole. Okay. That's what I'm saying. It's a whole nother level. So when you actually do reach that stage, co-parenting can be extreme. It can be so much better. And I think a lot of people, especially I guess the dads, because they may be the ones more on the kind of receiving end sometimes of a woman's actions when she obviously is in that stage. Obviously they want it to get there quicker. Yeah. You know, a lot of people are saying it's, you know, how you feel about the dad shouldn't come into it. You put the kids first. It should be separate, blah, blah, blah. But we're human. Like you said, psychologists and all that, they all say the same thing. Like, this shit ain't made up, okay? You are not the bad one because you can't separate your emotions and your smart thinking. It's not your fault. It's extremely difficult and it is with everything. So, but you have to do your best and you have to recognize it. First thing is awareness. If you're aware that you are heartbroken, and that you're upset and that you feel resentful. If you're aware of all of that, then you can also make the decision, the conscious decision to say, I'm going to put that aside and try and make this decision for my child. But if you're unaware, if you don't think that you're thinking with your emotions, if you think, no, I'm reasonable. I said he can come on the weekend at 3 p.m. But he said if you think you're being reasonable with your decision making, then you won't make any efforts. Just at me to correct it because you think like, you know, all them women, what? He said he wanted to come on Friday. I said he could come at 6, but he said he couldn't come till 8. So I told him he couldn't come. What's wrong with that? I told him to come at 6. You know when one's there, if you don't think there's anything wrong with that, then you're not going to correct it. Yeah,
you're just going to go
round in circles. So the first thing is just being aware. We're not saying
but also in your awareness, be honest. Yeah, because you can be fake woke. Yeah. Oh yeah, he this. I'm over it. No. Be real with yourself. Yeah, because a relationship doesn't just end. Someone doesn't just cheat. Someone doesn't just lie. Someone doesn't just get sick of you today. Like, there is, if you look back on things and I'm very analytical. I'm very, you know, everyone knows this about me. But it works. It helps me. I am an overthinker, and that's one of my gifts and curses. Because I overthink, I self-reflect. And because I self-reflect, I position myself to be understanding. And when I'm understanding, I'm not going to take what you're doing over there personal to me. Yeah. Because your shit is your shit. Regardless of if I'm in the way or not. It might be me, it might be Sue, it might be Chanel or Shaniqua. But your shit is your shit. Likewise, my shit is mine. But you have to own your own shit. When the breakup ends and there's no point of or hope of return, own your own shit first. Because that's the first and easiest way to acceptance. Yeah. And once you've accepted, you have an awareness, you have a self-awareness, and you don't take everything so personally. Then you can be like, okay, right, I'm a single mum. This is my financial situation. This is my physical, practical, daily school run, blah, blah, blah situation. And this is where I'm at emotionally. But the emotions, like to be an accountable mother and not take too long to override, oh, well, I feel bitter. He cheated on me. He's left me with these kids and blah, blah, blah. So now I'm going to be a CUNT to everyone. And it doesn't matter what my kids see or hear. No. You're still accountable for them kids. So yes, I can look back and go, oh my gosh, I wish I never had that argument in front of the kids that day. I wish I never lost it. Or I wish I never... I don't know, what have I done that's stupid? I mean, the list is long. But, you know, like, I can't think of anything right now, but I wish I never did X, Y, Z. And I can look back and go, that's why I did that. I was in that emotional place. I never communicated how I felt then. I let it build up. I can retrace my steps and be accountable for myself. So that hopefully in the next situation next week, because I'm going to have to talk to this man again.
Yeah, it's going to happen.
Next week, I can put my best foot forward so I can do on my side my best.
Yeah, because you're allowed to make mistakes.
100%.
But not the same mistake over and over again.
Yeah,
like you said.
It's like saying sorry and then doing it
doing it again. So you're allowed to, like you said, lose your temper, lose it in the moment. Because we all say in theory, I'm not going to argue in front of the kids. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. But it can happen because if something happens triggering in that moment, then you may do like I said. But like I said,
forgive yourself quick.
Right, forgive yourself. Honest,
forgive yourself quick, and acknowledge it, and keep it moving.
And don't do it again. Like I said, don't do it next week.
Keep it moving.
Because doing it once, your child seeing one argument is not going to have the same impact as your child seeing 20. Yeah. So you can make a mistake, but you have to, like you said, reflect and move on. You know what? As well, I was going to say, I think some women are also scared to have a positive co-parenting relationship. Do you agree? Because I'm just thinking.
I have my theory.
What would you have to like? You'd have nothing to moan about, like in the sense of after you've been through all this year, and now you're like, if you even thought, like you said, like this is a decent human being, and he's a good dad, and he was so helpful when we was together, and he could continue to be so helpful. Women say that's what they want. Yeah, no, do you know what I mean? Yeah. But we say that's what we want because we don't have it. So we're allowed to moan about it and everyone can hear us moan about it. Yeah. But if it was actually obtainable, I don't think half of us would want it because we just want, what would we have to say then?
It's also like you're struggling, the relationship's failing, you know why, he hasn't got a job or he doesn't help you with the kids or whatever the issues might be. But now you've broken up, yeah? Now you're becoming co-parents and you can see he's getting that stable job. He's moving on. He's got his own place. He's driving. He's collecting the kids on time. He's sending the money on time. How can he still be the bad guy in my story? Yeah. And that's what it is. Yeah. Because in order to change the narrative from he's the bad guy and spending your time finger pointing, you're not looking at yourself. And it's so easy to stay comfortable in that place where you don't need to look and address at yourself because he's the bad guy.
And what if there was no one to blame? That's another thing. Nobody wants no one. You don't want to be a single parent with no one to blame. How did I get here? Like, it has to be
all your fault.
It has to be someone's fault and it's yours, Because I'm just thinking, if, like you said, if your relationship wasn't working out and it was none of your problem, like no one's problem, it's just you two weren't compatible and made for each other. But what do you mean? Someone has to be to blame. Like, if we're both good now, I'm good, I'm managing, I've got a job, I take care of myself, take care of these kids, and you're good over there and you got a job, like, you ain't got no next woman, so there's no issues there. You're just a decent human being coming to get... Then there's just no one to blame here for this situation that we're in. Like, it's just, it's a weird...
Because a failed relationship hits hard for a lot of people, like, especially those that have been brought up with two parents. I would imagine, because I would imagine that becoming a single parent or ending a marriage would be like, oh my gosh.
And you know, and you have to retell that story
over and over again.
And not even necessarily the story, but the title. Every time you meet somebody new, you have to say it, like, at some point. Of course, you don't say it straight away, but...
hi, I'm a single mum.
Yeah, you don't say it straight away. But even if you make friends, like, in the workplace, and then at some point you start talking about your kids, right? And then they'll say, at some point someone says...
Oh, are you with the dad?
Yeah, or you got a husband or whatever. And then you're like, no. Yeah. Basically, you've retold, even though you're well past it. I've been a single parent for a long time. Sometimes... I don't like telling everyone.
It's a negative stigma.
That's what I'm saying.
This is why we're talking about this, people.
Yeah. So to say it again, like, to someone new, and especially if it's someone who you feel is going to look down on you. Yeah. So like you said, whether
be judged.
Whether it's an employer or whether you're telling Sally at work, who is married.
Who's perfect. Life is perfect.
She's been talking about her husband for the last 20 minutes. Yeah. Now you got to resell it or like say it again, and you're like, oh. Yeah. And really, like I said, you could be perfectly happy. Yeah. You could have a really...
Or content.
And you could have a good co-parenting relationship. Like, nothing wrong with the dad. That's good. Me and dad, we co-parent everything. But just telling someone new again, yes, go through a bit of emotions again, and like you said, or you feel it's failed, like I'm a single parent.
Well, the one thing that helped me get over that feeling about that was in my job before I started my business. There was an older woman who was older than my mum at the time, who was married, had 2 children. They're both at uni, doing great, blah, blah, blah. I felt very judged by her. And the thing that made me flip my mindset to that, I got to tell someone else, is your judgment towards me is about you. It says more about you than it does about me, because you don't know my situation. And regardless of whether I was a sex worker, had a random baby, I don't know who the baby father is, and now I'm a single mum raising this kid because how am I going to find out? To I was in a committed relationship, or I was in a domestic violence relationship and it broke down and he cheated and he left me, or God forbid he died. It doesn't mean that I'm less of a woman or less of a person or a mother because I am single.
Yeah.
The circumstances behind it, does it make it better or worse? It might to some people mean something, but regardless of what the situation is, don't let no one else's judgment take away your peace about who you are and accepting your situation. Your situation is what it is. Denying it, distracting yourself from it, hiding from it, it ain't gonna change it.
Yeah.
It just alters how you behave.
Yeah. But that's what we're saying about the narrative. Like, if we can change the narrative, if we can change the single parent narrative, if there are single mums out there doing an amazing job, raising amazing kids, who are achieving amazing things, then people wouldn't be worried about saying I'm a single parent.
But there are thousands of women who are raising children alone and doing an amazing job. Statistically, biologically, do the fathers need to be around? Yes, we all know that. But we're in a society now that it's very common to have a single parent home.
And when you say fathers being around, that does not mean you two are being in a relationship. Like, you know, and obviously I think that's another episode that we'll get into about what exactly does that mean, a single parent and things like that. But you can have a completely active dad who is playing an important role in his child's life, but just is not in a relationship with you. That's it. Like, some people, I've heard stories where some people, they live on the same road. Mum and dad, mum and dad live on the same road. They're not together, but they live on the same road. So they're seeing the child are seeing their dad as much as a couple that live together.
My neighbor 3 doors down, the husband, they broke up. The guy now lives across the road, literally.
That's what I'm saying.
A 2-minute walk.
That's what I'm saying. So, and there are people who are in couples who maybe the dad doesn't see their child that much for work reasons,
time,
whatever.
schedules.
Do you see what I mean? So when we say it's. When you say the single parent and all that kind of stuff, it's not necessarily that the dad is not there. Yeah. And when statistics and stuff like that do want to call out that, most of the people in prison come from single parent families, and most criminals are from single parent families, and most people who don't succeed.
Just look at your government and tell me about criminal, please.
Right, but when they say that, it's like, okay, when you say single parent family, what do you mean? Because it's the factors of this single parent kind of childhood,
i.e. lack of resources,
exactly,
lack of money, the mum being under unnecessary extra stress.
It's not necessarily
just because she's whatless.
Because when I hear kind of things like that, I get triggered. I find it very offensive. And two, on the flip side, I then worry and think, oh my gosh, is
my daughter going to end up in jail?
Yeah, can't I undo the statistics then? Because technically I'm a single parent and you're saying that the numbers are so high. But I know, like, come on, intelligently thinking about it, it's down to other factors, because all single parents are different. And if the dad is there, present and doing a good job, then you technically not living in the same household is not equating to much.
So, to sum everything up, just be real with yourself. Heartbroken or not.
Do you know what though? Obviously we spoke about women and like we're trying to talk about women having to be aware of what's going on and how to deal with it. But I do think it's also important for men to understand what is going on
for women.
Because when we had one of our guests here, and he said that he suddenly realised that this woman is going through all these things and realised, oh shit, that's why she's acting. So I'm just thinking, if men can be more aware, and I'm not saying give women a free pass if they're being irrational and doing things they shouldn't be doing. But if you actually just take a minute to think, shit,
it must be difficult.
It must be difficult. Yeah. That's all I'm saying. It must be difficult. Yeah. So if she asks you something that's not unreasonable, but you do think, I don't know why she's asking me that. Yeah. Or like, that's not my responsibility. Yeah, that's her. Yeah. I'm just saying, if you just think, where's that coming from? And it is coming from the fact, like the difference is that she does have the kids 24/7 and therefore has to unpack all of this and deal with all of this while the kids are there. So as a man, what you can possibly do to help would benefit you as well in the long run, because what your goal should be is to trying to get to a point where you guys can co-parent amicably. So if you can help with that process in any way by being understanding or by being patient or offering to help in certain situations, then just doing a little bit more than the bare minimum, because it's not your responsibility anymore, because you're unhealed and she's a bitch and she's not being accommodating, because it swings and roundabouts, and it's very difficult because people are really dealing with some spiteful people. Some women are very spiteful after a breakup, and can be very controlling, because the children is the only thing that they can control. Yeah, and I'm sure there's a lot of men watching this as well now, thinking
it's not my responsibility to be nice to her.
And thinking that I've been on the receiving end of a complete spiteful woman, and what about me? And they might be thinking that like we're not taking them into consideration, but this episode was not about you.
Simple as.
It wasn't about you.
Catch us in a new one,
and we've got time to think about that. But yes, we do. We're not dumb. We're not completely ignoring the fact that there are spiteful women in general, but also maybe because of their emotions and stuff that are going to make your life difficult. And we're trying, that's the whole point of this. We're trying to reach out to them and say, don't do it. Don't do it.
Do not
do it.
Don't do that to that man or them kids.
And we're trying to help men be aware of what's happening. Okay. Should we leave it there?
Let's leave it there. See you later, people.